Hello YouTube, this is Asatsu5. I'm going to have a few more unboxing videos as the week goes on. And this is King's Wild Project's playing cards. I've done an unboxing of their cards before with the Robin Hood deck. This is the Beowulf deck. So without further ado, let's get this open. I don't know if you can really review playing cards like I do with knives and stuff, but I can show you what they look like and kind of tell you my opinion on them. Let's see. Get this out from behind the tripod. Ah, yes, I found the seam. I love this Victorinox peeling knife. It's really cheap, it's really sharp, and it's easy to sharpen. I really, as far as cost to enjoyment ratio, the Victorinox peeling knife is very high. Now this is the Beowulf deck. It looks like a book, kind of like the Robin Hood deck, which I think I have nearby. You know, they both have that old school leather bound book look to them. The Robin Hood is more of a medieval theme, and Beowulf is more of a migration era theme. And I don't want to cut the book, but I need to get this plastic off. Robin Hood was a pretty integral part of my childhood. That's when Robin Hood Prince of Thieves came out with Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman. And then you had the Disney animated Robin Hood, with Robin Hood being casted as a fox character. And, you know, Little John was a bear. Beowulf wasn't so much part of my childhood as much. But I like the time period that Beowulf is set in. I'm interested in the story of Beowulf. I'm actually kind of listening to the audiobook version of it. I started it, at least. It's about 3 hours long. And I like the Anglo-Saxon theme. And if you don't know, one of the coolest swords in history was an Anglo-Saxon sword. You can read about it in this book, Swords and Swordsmen by Michael Oates. This is about multiple different swords and the swordsmen that used them, and it puts it in context. But like the Anglo-Saxons had what we would call Damascus, which is really pattern-welded steel. Most Damascus that you find these days is not true Damascus, it's pattern-welded steel. True Damascus is a mono steel that's made in a crucible. And Damascus, as we know it, is layers of different steels that are twisted and folded. So a lot of times I'll refer to the original Damascus as Woots. And the Damascus that we're used to, you know, we normally just call it Damascus, but it's actually pattern welded steel. But, you know, so the old school, the Damascus that is very hard to find these days is Woots. It's not impossible to find. Those people who can make it, but it's not as common. But as you see, let's see if I can get this to focus. There we go. There was an Anglo-Saxon helmet. Something that King Redwald, I can't say his name, would wear. And it's interesting little fact about my family. My family is Norman, and we invaded England in 1066 and defeated the Anglo-Saxons. But that being said, the Anglo-Saxons, or the Angles, more specifically, is probably one of the more important barbarian groups, because that's the most spoken language we have today is English, and it comes from Anglo-Saxon. And you got Anglo-Saxon, which is the Old English, and then you put some Norman French in there, and a little bit of Latin, and you get the English language. Now these are what I think are joker cards, but you put them together and they make a design. And I think this is supposed to be Grendel. Or, no, it's Beowulf fighting the dragon, so it's not Grendel. So you got your dragon, fire-breathing Beowulf, and they usually, like, they have it in here too, where it's a picture of Little John and Robin Hood fighting on the bridge, I think. I'd have to open it back up and check. Got your Ace of Spades, which is your death card. And you can see it's very highly ornate. 2s, 3s of spades. Let's get into the court cards. There's the Jack. Okay, I think Jack is Grendel. There's the Monster Lady. Got the Ace of Diamonds. I like how they put the line through the 7. I do that. There's different Jack, different woman, Queen, King. Yeah, very beautiful deck of cards. Like I said, Beowulf wasn't a childhood staple of mine, so I'm not as familiar with it as Robin Hood. But these cards are slippery. They are very slick. I do like the migration era time period and learning about it. That's where you get the Vikings moving around. This is right after the fall of the Roman Empire. And beautiful box. And so I think as far as barbarian swords, or swords in general from the migration area, including the Romans, I think that you get some of the best swords, or most noteworthy swords of that time period. Not only do you get King Redward's, pattern welded steel sword, which is very cool, but probably not the best sword out there. But you also get the Ulfport Sword that the Vikings were very fond of. One of the most counterfeited swords in the world at that time, which was, I think, Woot's, actually. They traded for Woot's. It was a crucible steel. During the migration time period, Western Europe did not have access to crucibles. They didn't have the technology to produce crucible steel. But they traded with the East, the Vikings did, and they got crucible steel, and they forged them into the Ulfport Sword, and they would engrave Ulfport on them. And these were the very highly sought after, Lamborghinis of the sword world back in that day. So Beowulf didn't have one of those swords, but it's around the same time period that you get that sword. And if you're interested in swords and swordsmen, this is a book by Michael Lodes. I read it a long time ago, and I no longer have access to it on my Kindle because I changed my iPad. So I decided to buy a carbon copy book. And this is a very interesting book about swords and swordsmen. It talks about the history of both the famous swordsmen and the swords that they used. And they mostly focus on European swords, but as Michael Oates said, it would be a big dishonor or a big shame not to include katanas in here. So they do have katanas. They do have the Kopish from Egypt, and the Zippos, dueling swords, montantes or great swords. They have just about every type of sword that was used in Europe, and then they have and in America, And they also have the Khopesh and the Katana. It's a pretty massive book, but to me, well worth it if you're into swords and history of them. And I decided that I wanted kind of a Beowulf deck that's from that nods to the migration era. I kind of like swords and stuff, so I thought these decks of cards were very beautiful and very well done, and they're in my collection now, and I think they're just awesome. So that's it. I'm a Satsu 5, and I'm out.